What's going on, guys? So in today's video, we're going to talk a little bit more about this new John Deere 50G. This is a 2022 model. It's a mini excavator, and you know, in the whole scheme of things, when it comes to being a mini excavator, it's actually more along the sides of like a mid to upper size compact excavator. You know, it's funny because as tiny as it looks in the video, it doesn't feel that tiny when you get up close to it. It actually feels as if it's got some significant size and structure to it. There's some things that I want to explain about it. There are some expectations I'd like to set about it, and hopefully you enjoy the video. So hang tight, I'll be right back. All right, so I'm going to be honest with you guys. When I was researching mini excavators, there were really three main criteria I was looking for. I was looking for breakout force, the ability for this thing to actually create a hole in the ground, that amount of downward pressure. I was looking for the overall reach, both down, up, and out. And I wanted an enclosed cab. You know, when it came to horsepower specs, I wasn't 100% sure what the real differences would be in terms of horsepower, because there are some brands that are roughly the same size, but they have higher claims, or, you know, they brag about higher horsepower. And when I started doing research on it, I found that some companies use slightly different hydraulics, and it requires more horsepower for it to operate as effectively. Everyone I have reached out to and talked to about the John Deere mini excavators say these are really great units. Now, I know that John Deere outsources their mini excavator business to a company in Germany. That company, I think it was back in like 2018, that company used to make Caterpillar mini excavators, but Caterpillar brought it in-house. So John Deere's been using them for about the past 4 years, I suppose, maybe 3.5 years, something like that. And what kind of worried me at first was that it appeared as if that German company farmed out their manufacturing to a company in China, or at least their factory was in China. You know, to me, it's not that big of a deal as long as the product that they turn out is a good quality product. However, I was pleased to find out that this product is actually manufactured in Japan. So not only is Japan, of course, a much stronger ally of ours, but they also turn out higher quality products, in my opinion. And what actually was the proof behind that was the label right here, made in Japan. So that actually made me feel a lot better. I don't know why. I don't know if the product would have been any better or worse had it been manufactured in China, but I just like the fact that it is manufactured in Japan over China. You know, you think of Chinese cars, you think of Chinese manufacturing for a lot of their factories, and a lot of the people who buy things off Alibaba and claim that it's the cheapest thing they've ever seen, and the quality is questionable. And that's all I'm looking at it from that perspective. You know, from an economic perspective, I had a viewer that actually left a comment when I made a comment about imported goods a while back, and he said, you know what, regardless of where you buy it, you are supporting the U.S. economy. Now, you could completely support the U.S. economy by only buying products and services and things here in the States that are manufactured here in the States with American manufactured materials. But I think that sometimes there's a perception that if something's manufactured here in the States, it's automatically better. I don't know if that holds true to everything. You know, RVs are almost entirely manufactured here in the U.S. using U.S. materials for the most part, and I would question to say whether or not that the building practices by a U.S. RV manufacturer would rival that of a lot of the European and Australian and Japanese manufacturers, even some Chinese manufacturers. So it all comes down to quality control. It all comes down to accountability and what the manufacturer and the owner of the product want their product to be able to do, and to, you know, what standards they want it built to at the end of the day at that factory, wherever that factory is. You know, there are a ton of dock workers, there are a ton of customs folks, there are a ton of, you know, forklift operators, there are a ton of people that have to transport stuff. Once these things make it to the U.S., that you are still supporting the U.S. economy. You know, you're paying commissions, you're helping the dealership you buy it from. So you know, at the end of the day, the actual manufacturing cost of the equipment itself and the product itself is always going to exist, right? It's who you're supporting at that point. Again, I am worried about who you buy from. I would prefer to buy from, you know, a US manufacturer of things like this, but at the same time, my entire decision isn't based on that. Okay, so let's talk about a few things. First of all, I did an upgrade, and that upgrade was to add a radio right here on the side. And this is a Bluetooth radio, AM, FM, auxiliary port, USB port, so I can charge my phone. And it goes through the speakers that were already installed. And they did not include a radio in here. It's always an upgrade, only because there's a lot of commercial operators that don't want employees listening to the radio or being on their phone while they're in the cab of the vehicle. So I can completely understand that. My daughter drew me a picture of a tractor that I stuck to the side, which is very sweet of her. But yeah, very, very cool. Again, let's talk about some of the greater details. First of all, I already know I'm going to have to grease the heck out of this thing very frequently. So I'm going to over-grease it. You know, I was pretty much told that you can't over-grease one of these, but you can definitely make a mess. So I'm going to grease it up and clean it up whenever I'm needing to do that, and probably every, you know, probably twice the cycles that I would probably need to. Now, when it comes to how I'm doing in terms of operating it, I think I'm getting better. So, you know, the first thing that I saw whenever I was researching and trying to understand the best ways to operate this, the smoothest ways, was to essentially put your bucket out, put your stick down, and just scoop, and then rotate over and dump. And I saw that as being a way that a lot of people learned how to do it originally, but I didn't really want to do it that way. The way I wanted to do it was the way that you eventually want to do it, where you essentially kind of just pull from the top and scoop out, which means you're operating both sticks at the same time, which means you're operating essentially 3 different planes at the same time, right? I have to move my boom in and up, pull my stick in, and curl the bucket at the same time. And then as soon as you pass kind of the fulcrum here, you have to then push the boom back out, because this piece right here essentially is going to go up as you scoop in, and then it's going to go back down as you scoop in. And to be able to do that takes some concentration that, you know, I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to work on it, because I'm getting a little better at it. We loaded the dump trailer over here as packed as you can imagine. Right now it's compressed down pretty hard because we use the actual bucket to compress it down in there. But yeah, it's certainly been something I've been practicing on, and my buddy with his truck kept telling me to unload it off of his truck, which was kind of stressful. But you know, we got it done, and I've been trying to get out here every day for a couple of hours just to practice with it, and I think that's really what it's going to take. You can see all the spots in the ground that I've pretty much torn up just moving it around. I've moved the pile over there back and forth several times. I've probably clocked about 4 hours on this thing since I've had it, just practicing, and we've had it for 2 days. So I don't know if that's a lot. It's certainly not as much as a construction operator might do if he's having to dig a big hole or dig a big trench, but it's enough for me to get some wheel time in and learn how to operate the controls a little better. I am not comfortable with the foot controls in there. I've been using the stick controls up top, the hand controls. For me, it just makes sense. The foot controls require you to kind of hover your feet above them the whole time you're operating it. So if you operate one of these, let me know how you feel about that. I've been trying to get more practice in with the knuckle right here, which is that little control down there on the bottom. Basically, this piece can rotate completely sideways, almost like a backhoe. And you know, when we were working next to the trailer, that was really handy because I didn't have to rotate the cab the whole time. I would just rotate the actual loader, and that was really nice. It worked real well. Still getting used to the blade functions. I'm not really tilting it or angling it much at this point because I'm not doing much backfilling. But yeah, certainly the amount of pressure to put down. I did learn how to spin off. That was pretty quick thanks to all the really, really informative YouTube videos that are out there. So basically you push the front of your loader down, lift the front up, and then counter rotate your cab and rotate your tracks, and it works really well. And it actually does do a much better job of allowing you to turn without tearing up the ground. So that is kind of cool. Practice makes perfect with something like this, and I figure 15-20 hours into it, I'll probably be reasonably decent to where I feel more confident behind it. But right now, I'm just trying to go really, really slow. The controls aren't instinctual. They definitely take finesse, and you can move this thing incredibly fast. So what I've been doing is running it in eco mode, And then I also run it with the RPM slightly down just to slow things down a little bit so I get a better feel of it, because you can do a lot of damage very quickly with a machine like this if you're not careful. And like I said, everything's a lot bigger up close than it seems. This piece right here is 3 feet long. The bucket right here, it's 12 inches inside, but it's certainly a heavy duty bucket. You know, the blade, all of this is over an inch thick solid steel. This blade up front is incredibly robust. I mean, everything, again, it's a lot bigger up close. This isn't as small of a machine as it looks when you stand back. And when you stand up to it, I'm about to hear in the cab. So, again, you know, this is something that is certainly not a tiny piece of equipment, and you want to be really careful if you're operating it. So, again, I'm just trying to get really good at it. I'm trying to slow down, make sure that everything I do is finessed and calculated, because last thing you want to do is hurt somebody, hurt yourself, or damage something that you don't intend on damaging. And unloading all of that stuff from the back of my buddy's pickup truck was certainly stressful. I mean, he forced me to do it. He basically said, no, I want you to do it because moving dirt is easy. You know, you can mess up and you're not going to hurt anything. But moving brush from the back of a truck with the thumb and being able to move it up and out of the way into the dump trailer is certainly something that's a bit more nerve-wracking. It's going to take more finesse, more care, and you're going to have to slow down, especially if you're new. So that's really what it taught me. It taught me to slow down tremendously, just really, really slow down and concentrate on the controls, micro movements, really, really slow movements, closing and opening the thumb really slow. That's probably my biggest challenge, is closing and opening that thumb really, really slow and not binding up the thumb. Because your gut sometimes when the thumb is closed is that you think your bucket and your thumb work together, and they don't. So if you want to move your bucket up like this with the thumb closed and you got all this brush inside of it, you're having to operate both the thumb control with your thumb on the top of the joystick as well as the bucket control by twisting it at the same time to try to get it both moving at the same time. So that was certainly an educational experience. Anyways, guys, I came out here. I'm going to hit some of those grease points with it. I probably don't need to at this point, but he said keep an eye on it. And if you have grease out here, grease it up as much as you can. So I plan on heeding that advice. I sure hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.